Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to tackle something that can be a real challenge when you're learning English. How to disagree with someone without, sounding rude or causing offense. So let's dive right in.
So let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a conversation where you really wanted to share a different opinion, but you held back because you were worried about how it would sound? Maybe you were afraid of coming across as too aggressive.
Yeah, if that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. And that's exactly why we're here. In this explainer, we're going to move way beyond those clunky textbook phrases and show you how people actually express different opinions in natural, everyday English.
Okay, so what's the deal here? Why is this so tricky? Well, a lot of the time, the phrases you learn in a textbook or even direct translations from your own language can just come across as super blunt, maybe even a little harsh in English. It really comes down to cultural context.
And a huge piece of that puzzle is this idea of face-saving. Now, this isn't about being fake or dishonest, not at all. It's really just about making sure everyone in the conversation can keep their dignity, avoiding embarrassment. The whole goal is to keep things feeling positive for everybody involved.
And this is so important to get. In a lot of English-speaking cultures, disagreeing politely, it's not really about proving you're right. It's way more about keeping the relationship good, Maintaining that positive connection with the other person is the real prize.
All right, enough theory. Let's get practical. We're going to put the textbook head-to-head with what you'll actually hear people say out in the wild. This is where the magic happens, I promise.
Okay, first up. On one side, we've got the classic textbook phrase, I disagree. Super direct, right? It almost sounds like you're throwing down a challenge. But now look at the other side. I see your point, but... This little phrase is a total game changer. Why? Because you're telling the other person, hey, I heard you, I get what you're saying, before you even offer your own idea. You're validating them first. It's huge.
Let's try another one. Saying, that's a bad idea. Wow, that just slams the door on the conversation, doesn't it? But check out the alternative. When you phrase it as a question, like, I'm not sure that would work, have we considered? You're totally changing the vibe. It's not a confrontation anymore. It becomes an invitation to brainstorm together.
And this last one, it's so powerful. The phrase, you are wrong, is pretty much a conversation ender. But look at this approach. I might be missing something, but I thought. See how that just completely softens the whole thing? You're framing your point as your understanding, not some absolute truth. And that makes it so much easier for the other person to actually hear you out.
Okay, are you starting to get the hang of it? Let's make this even simpler. I'm going to give you 3 golden rules, a simple framework you can use for pretty much any situation you find yourself in.
Seriously, think of it like a super simple 3-step recipe. Step 1, acknowledge their point. Show them you were listening. Something like, that's a really interesting point. Step 2, use a soft bridge to transition, like, however. And step 3, state your own view calmly. So, altogether, that's an interesting point. However, I think we should also consider acknowledge, bridge, state. That's it.
All right, now that we have the recipe, let's fill up your toolkit. I'm going to give you some actual practical phrases that you can literally start using today.
First up, we've got what I call softening phrases. And you can think of these as, like conversational cushions. They just pad your statement so the impact is a lot gentler. They're a little signal that says, hey, what I'm about to say is just my opinion, not a fact.
And here are some fantastic ones you can just grab and use. See how they're all about your personal feeling? Saying, I kind of feel that is so much softer than stating something as a hard fact. And oh, I love this one. I'm not an expert, but it's a brilliant way to offer an idea without sounding like a know-it-all. Next up in the toolkit, the pivot phrase. This is your bridge. It's that crucial step from our 3-part recipe. It's the thing that connects their idea to yours, and it's absolutely key for showing respect before you change the direction of the conversation.
Just look at these. They are so powerful. Every single one starts by validating the other person. That's a valid point. Or, I see what you mean. That simple first step shows you're actually having a real conversation, not just waiting for your turn to talk. Remember, you're building a bridge, not a wall.
So, we have covered a ton of ground here. Let's pull it all together and do a quick recap of the main strategy so it really sticks. So just remember this simple flow, okay? First, always acknowledge their point to show you're engaged. Then, use those softeners, things like I feel or it seems to me, to frame your idea as just an opinion. After that, state your own view, nice and calm. And finally, use those awesome pivot phrases, I see your point, but, to make that transition super smooth and respectful.
And look, if you only remember one thing from all of this, please let it be this. The goal isn't to win the argument, it's simply to share a different perspective respectfully. Once you really get that, once you shift your mindset from winning to sharing, your language is just naturally going to follow.
And that brings me to one last question for you. How does all of this compare to how you disagree politely in your first language? Are there similarities, or are things totally different? Just thinking about that is a fantastic way to level up your skills as a cross-cultural communicator. Thanks so much for joining me.